Rumor about Michael Jackson joining a cult. Michael Jackson, whose real names were Michael Joseph Jackson, was an American singer, dancer, and songwriter, and as many people called him, King of Pop. Michael was born on the August 29, 1958 in Gary, Indiana, United States of America. Michael grew up with three sisters, Rebby, LaToya, and Janet Zero, and five brothers, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Randy. He is regarded as one of the most significant figures of the 20th century. He had a quite successful four-decade career where he had an impactful contribution to music and dance and also fashion. Jackson influenced artists across the world, from all music genres, where he even publicized a complicated dance move known as the moonwalk, but he referred to as the robot himself. His name was a huge one back in the mid-80s and 90s. The eighth child of the Jackson family made his public debut in 1964 with his older brothers Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon as a member of the Jackson Five, which they later renamed as the Jacksons. He, however, later parted ways with the Jacksons and began his solo career in 1971. This was in one of the greatest records in New York known as Motown, a record label owned by Universal Music Group. He became a solo star debuting with Off the Wall, an album he released in 1979. Through some of his songs, he is accredited with even breaking racial barriers with songs like Beat It, Billie Jean, and Thriller in his 1982 album named Thriller. He quite had an ascending career with his albums like Thriller being the best-selling album of all time and Bad, an album he released in 1987, being the first to produce 5 United States Billboard Hot 100 #1 singles. He helped a lot in propelling the success of MTV by creating videos for albums like Dangerous, 1981, History, Past, Present, and Future Book I, 1995, and Invincible. Jackson's involvement in the Nation of Islam is as secretive as the group itself. His brothers Jermaine and Tito, who were Muslim converts but not members of the group, had requested to act as security at the Neverland Ranch after fresh allegations of child sex abuse surfaced. The Nation of Islam, who till recently are now referred to as Black Muslims, is an extremist American cult whose belief system comprises a kitschy mixture of bad science fiction and corrupted Islamic theology. It believed that a circular spaceship carrying 1,500 smaller ships filled with bombs will at some indeterminate point destroy both Britain and America. The majority of African Americans generally focused on the negative aspects of NOI, whose role was mainly complicating the civil rights movement and its legacy of black-on-black violence. Looking back on the cult surrounding Jackson and others like him from this time, Craig Jensen wrote in Vulture, they were like demigods. It all seems religious in retrospect. The people who loved Michael Jackson did not just love him, they worshipped him. Michael Jackson, however, despite being a public figure, in the late 1980s he became a controversy and speculation due to his changing physical appearance, relationships with people, his personal behaviors, and his lifestyle. A case that proved so was one in 1993 when he was accused of sexually abusing the child of a family friend. In such a case, he was never indicted, with the civil court settling with lack of evidence. In 2005, he was tried and acquitted further child abuse allegations and several other charges. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, however, found no evidence of criminal conduct by Jackson in either of the cases. He had a dark cultic side which is revealed by people who were close to him. For example, Leaving Neverland 2019, a documentary, Secrets Will Eat You Up. In the documentary, 2 accusers share their stories of what they say happened at the hands of the world's most famous pop star then. One of the storytellers doesn't hesitate to then state that, and he sexually abused me for 7 years. One of his accusers, James Safe Chuck, encountered Jackson at the age of 10 after nabbing a role in a Pepsi ad, similarly developing a friendship and started accompanying him on tour. James describes the recollection of their friendship turned sexual, with Jackson introducing him to masturbation, who he said saw it as a form of bonding of a sexual couple when the two were left alone. This was so easy as the two would share hotel rooms with an unaware mother who, in spite of being with them in such tours, always had her room booked a different floor from theirs. James today from the documentary has a wedding ring Michael gave to him and an engagement only both of them had. He was also introduced to alcohol by with Wade being introduced to hardcore porn. Another accuser was a boy by the name of Wade Robson who from a young age developed an intense fandom for Michael, who had his room full of his posters and even emulating Jackson's moves in a local contest, with the prize being meeting the man himself. Wade states that his friendship got deep with Michael, even convincing Wade's mother that he was allowed to be with the boy for 5 days. He recalls engaging in anal and oral activities with him, stating that it was by destiny that they were meant to be together. Michael would lure Wade by lying to him that if anyone knew of their mischievous activity, both of them would end up in jail. Both Wade and Michael faded out of Jackson's life as younger boys were introduced, as one was not forever special. To understand the cult and martyrdom of Michael Jackson, we need to go back to a 14-minute masterpiece directed by John Landis in 1982. From the film, which helped his album sell 65 million copies, he does his usual normal dance routines and then morphs into a lycanthrope where his physical appearance changes beyond recognition. Something that was once charming becomes downright scary, which later became evident in the next 2 decades of his career. He began with getting into an abusive relationship with the tabloid press, where he was just attention-seeking. Michael went ahead to mutilate himself with plastic surgery, with the world being treated to churning pictures of his dislocated nostrils and his drooping eyelids. Secondly being Diana's character, who tried to preach on women who were once let down by a man, worried about her weight, or who feels the system is unfair to women. Jackson went ahead and spoke to people who felt did not conform in looks according to their stereotype for either being too fat or thin or the wrong color. Never was someone so uncomfortable with their own skin. By the obsessional suffering, he earned sympathy by everyone who feels doubtful about their appearance, which is a fair chunk of the human race. Michael Jackson had a dark side, with many counts of child abuse, with many, even the one involving Wade and James, having been reported in 2013 and 2014 respectively, have had no good end. A judge who dismissed the suits in 2021 found that the corporations, MJJ Productions Incorporated and MJJ Ventures Incorporated, could not be expected to function like the Boy Scouts or a church where a child in their care could expect their protection. Jackson, who died in 2009, was the sole owner and only shareholder in the companies. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, and share. Most important, subscribe to enable be updated in my next story.